My name is Stacie Taylor, and I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. My walk started about when I was 9 years old. I became a Christian at a young age, and I was raised in church. My home life wasn't that great. I had a bipolar mother and just didn't really feel loved. So, of course, after I got out of high school, I started just kind of searching for my own way. I met this guy and thought he was the one, but in my heart I knew that God was telling me no. So I didn't listen to God. I felt like this was my way out of my house, and I chose my path instead of God's, and then even asked God to bless that marriage. So when I chose my path, that's when I stopped hearing God's voice and I stopped feeling His presence. When about a year into the marriage, that's when I found out what God was trying to protect me from. And for the next 7 years, I was married to an alcoholic who was physically and mentally abusive. About 3 years in the marriage, I had my 2 small children, and I continued to call out to God, still silent, just kind of thinking that this is kind of my life now, this is what I deserved, because this is the path that I had chosen, and that God just kind of gave up on me. I remember one incident where I was at the sink washing dishes. The kids were playing in the floor, and I was listening to a Christian radio station. And after the song was over, this announcer came on and said, do you feel alone? Do you feel like you're doing your best and no one sees you? And I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because God sees you. So I just kind of shut my eyes and, asked God, do you see me? And all of a sudden I feel this little hand on my leg, and I look down and it's my son, and he's about 1.5 years at this point. And he's looking up at me, and he's just got the sweetest smile on his face. And I hear God say, I see you. And then all of a sudden, Hunter just snaps out of it and goes back to his crazy little self. And so it was then that I realized that God spoke to me through my child, and I saw His face through the face of my child. From that point on, I completely surrendered myself to God. I apologized. I asked for forgiveness for choosing my path instead of His. And the next thing He told me was to be still and know that He is God. So that's what I did. I kind of stood back and waited for Him to tell me when to move. And then 3 years later, God delivered me and my 2 kids from this man and out of this marriage. Once I left that marriage, I became a single mom, divorced, and that was really hard for me because I felt like I was kind of branded with that, the word divorce and single mom, and I just kind of felt like, just kind of useless, like God, there's no way God can use me. As these circumstances started happening, God was telling me to write them down. And so as I started writing them down, I felt like He was preparing me to tell my story one day. So at this point, I felt God preparing me to tell my story. And I was having this argument with Him one morning during my quiet time, and telling Him how, I'm not a speaker. I get really nervous talking in front of crowds, and I just, I didn't understand why He was calling me to do this. So then all of a sudden, this gush of wind comes, and my front door slings open, and my coffee spills on my Bible. So I'm wiping up the coffee on my Bible, and I look down, and it's like these words just pop up out of my Bible. And it's in Exodus, and it's where Moses is having the same conversation with God. And God says to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? It is I. Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will help you speak and teach you what to say. So God, I was like, okay, God, you've got my attention. I can do this. So that's how I got my strength. God gave me the strength that day to kind of press on for what He has called me to do, to tell my story. As a result of me following God's instructions, I have written a book about my testimony. It is now in the process of being edited. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, but I know that God will tell me in His time. But He has made it clear that 100% of my proceeds are to go to witness to those who are victim of domestic violence. So over the past 10 years, as I look back at my life and kind of what God has brought me through, you know, He's provided a wonderful husband for me, and not only who shows me Jesus every day, but has chosen to love my children and has even adopted them, so now they carry His name. He's even blessed us with a little girl. I went to nursing school, so I'm doing my dream job, and I'm getting a chance to use my story to minister to others who kind of, you know, are in the same situation that I was in. So, and you know, what I would say to someone who kind of feels broken or in the same situation that I was in would be that, you know, God, we're all broken, and that's part of God's plan, and He wants to take our brokenness to reveal His glory and His mercy and His power and His strength. And through that, He can take our brokenness and make it into something beautiful.